Hey guys, Meyer Power Driven Diesel here. Today we're doing an AFC Live tuning video. This is my dad's tow truck. It's got a set of compounds on it and I just recently changed them up a little bit. And when you change your air, you gotta change your tuning. So we're gonna go in, make some AFC Live tuning changes because this is his tow truck. You gotta have a nice, cool, clean tune you can go to. And so that's what we're gonna throw into this thing. So a quick overview of your AFC Live. So you got your bigger red knob here. That is your power adjustment, or let's just call it your fuel quantity adjustment. So tightening it up like this will give you more fuel. Loosening up like this will give you less fuel. Then we're gonna move over to the fuel rate knob. And what that is how fast the fuel comes in. So if you have it tightened up like this, it'll take a very long time for that fuel to get in the motor. And so it'll feel a little laggier. But if you have it loosened up like this, that's going to get the fuel in much sooner, which generally feels better, but it could be smoky. And so the trick here is just to find the happy medium of it's clean, but it's coming in fast. Then we have the AFC pressure. So you have your boost, and that is how much air is in your manifold. This is how much air you're sending to the AFC, and that's what we're modulating. So you can kind of get an idea of how much pressure you're sending there, kind of watch what's happening, and that's really helpful to know. Lastly, we have the max power switch. And so when this switch is up, it listens to your knobs and it'll modulate the amount of air going to the AFC and give you the power you desire that you have set up there. But when you put that switch down away from the knobs, that bypasses your knobs completely. And so whatever boost you're making is going to go in the AFC. And so that's like your full power, full fuel mode. And so if you got a good tow tune right here, then you want to race someone, you flick it down and that gives you that full chooch factor. So something I do want to specify here, this gauge is your tuned pressure. And so when you hit that max power switch down and you're bypassing, you're in full power mode, whatever boost you're making in the manifold is going into the AFC. This gauge here is only going to show you what your tuned pressure is. And so that's something we get all the time. Oh, I hit the max power switch and the gauge didn't change. Don't worry about it. That's how it works. That's how it's designed. And that's, as long as you're chooching, you're working. So first things first, we have to figure out how much pre-boost we have on the AFC. The way we built it, the way we bolted it on, there's some adjustments there, and that all comes into effect to figure out how much pre-boost fueling the AFC itself on the engine is giving the truck. So what we're gonna do there is we're gonna hit the max power switch into the tuned mode, so towards your gauges, and we're gonna take the little black fuel rate knob and snug it down. And what that's gonna do is that's gonna shut off the air going to your AFC. That way we know exactly that the fuel that's going in there is coming from the AFC adjustments itself. That way we can go in, make some small changes, and then from there, we'll start tuning the AFC Live with our knobs, making some fuel changes. To check this, what we're gonna do is we're gonna get to about the bottom of our RPM band. We wanna we're trying to tune for the RPM range we're using while we're driving. You can do 1,000 RPM, but you're not using that much. You wanna tailor it to the band, or RPM band you're driving in. So for a stock turbo, let's call it 1,500. You got a bigger charger, maybe it needs to be 2,000. What we're gonna do is we're gonna get that right, just like this, kind of making no boost, just cruising, and we're gonna floor it. And you can see, yeah, we got some smoke there, we got some fuel. Making like 20 pounds of boost just with pre-boost fuel only, that's a little excessive. So we're gonna go on the AFC itself, and we're gonna make some adjustments and pull a little bit of fuel out of it. To adjust your pre-boost, we're gonna adjust the pre-boost screw right here. So we're gonna go ahead, it's a 3mm to hold the stud. There we go. And then we have lock nut here, 10mm lock nut. Then from here, we're just gonna loosen up that stud. With how much smoke we had, I'm probably gonna do like a turn and a half. So we're doing a turn and a half here just because that's about how much fuel we had. I feel like that's gonna about clean it up, but you're gonna have to just play with it. If you think you got a lot of extra fuel there, you might have to go more. Or if you feel like you're like really close, you're gonna go less. It's just kind of playing it by ear. And then this is the beauty of the AFC Live, is this is the only real thing we have to mechanically tune on it, because it does set the starting point for the fuel. Once we get this guy set, it'll be the same in just all of our tunes, and that's where the fuel rate and fuel quantity knobs come into play. So again, we're gonna start about 1,500 or so, and then we're just gonna flat foot it. Oh yeah, that's a lot cleaner. That's really nice. It's also a lot slower, but that's okay. Right here, we're just trying to make it clean and run good. That's floored. So that is the least amount of power we can ask for. And shit. And it snuffs. It's so awesome. We've got our pre-boost set. So now we're gonna go in and change the adjustments in the AFC Live. So on that big red power knob, your fuel quantity knob, you want to back it out until you don't feel spring tension anymore. Kind of get a baseline of when you're about to adjust that spring, and then tighten it up, say like 3-4 turns. You're trying to make sure it's asking for plenty of fuel. That way you can now tune your fuel rate knob, because you want to get that transition to fuel about right. So now we have it all the way tightened up still. We're going to loosen up, call it 1 turn, and kind of see what happens. Now, again, 1500 RPM, flat foot it, see what it does. We're a little below 1500. So we got a nice steady state of acceleration. I felt pretty good. So it got a little smoky towards the back there, so we're going to take that power knob and we're going to back it off maybe a turn, kind of see what happens there. And honestly, that 1 turn back on the fuel rate seemed to do pretty darn good. Let's just try it again, kind of see. It's coming in pretty clean. That's not bad. What we can do is we can go open a little bit more. So let's go another turn open, and you'll see that that's probably coming in a little fast. Once we get past the little charger, yeah, came in a little fast there, got a little smoky. So we'll go back that 1 turn. And so that is what we're playing with here. We kind of got lucky. 1 turn seemed to be about right. But if 1 turn is still too fast, try half a turn. If 1 turn is still like not fast enough, well, try 2 turns, 3 turns. That's what you're playing with, is you're playing with how fast that fuel comes in. And like a lot of people are gonna have, I've heard that say, oh, we didn't touch it, we didn't want to mess with it, we just left your tune in it. That's not the point. The point is to mess with it, get it what you want. Play with it, try too loose, try too tight, see what it is you like. And that's the beauty of it, is that you can just change it, and when you're on a road trip like this, you can just be sitting there farting around with it, having a mess, not having to pull over to make every little change. We got this thing pretty darn close to dialed. I mean, about 1 turn out on the fuel rate seemed about right, and it seems to be running pretty good. We'll play with that a little bit, kind of see if we want to go more or less, whatever, but that gets us pretty close. And that power knob, I think we're pretty close there too. It runs pretty good. It seems like, you know, clean up okay. So the next thing we're gonna do, because this is a tow truck, we're gonna set this thing while towing. So we're gonna throw a trailer on there with a little bit of weight on it, just to kind of see what it's gonna do. We wanna make sure we set it somewhere where coolant temp won't be a problem, EGTs won't be a problem. It's very sustainable, something that he can just hit put the max power switch into that tuned mode, set cruise control, and not have to worry. And that's what we're gonna do. Okay guys, we are at the bottom of Black Ridge. We got Todd's equipment trailer loaded up, which is super heavy, as well as our test rig Vin-D. And just for the extra weight, we're gonna hit the highway. We're going to kind of set up the AFC Live for a good tow tune. Generally, you got a good tow setup, you know, let's call that 350 horsepower or so. That's also super peppy around town. It's a great setup to just drive around town, go intersection to intersection, whatever it is, and just be able to not worry about whether you're smoking someone out or not, or what else. So we're gonna hit this grade and we're going to get it set up. Also, for the haters that say you can't tow with full manual valve body, ha! I laugh at thee. So previously we tightened up the power knob so that way it was out of the way, we could set the fuel rate and whatnot. Now we're going to loosen that guy up. And what that's gonna do for us is that is going to give us like a very low amount of power, and that's going to be way too little. We're going to go to probably about 10 pounds in the little AFC Live gauge there, and that's probably going to be too little fuel. Depending on your setup, everyone's a little different, just with how the pump works, injectors, DVs, all that stuff. So we're going to put it at that. That's probably going to be too little power, and that way we're just floor it when we get to this grade here. And if it's too little, we'll just start slowly cranking it up and kind of getting it to the power level that we're happy with. And so that's a really fast, that's why you can get like 90% there. Like that's gonna be really close to your initial setting. And then you're just gonna watch your agates or EGTs and watch your coolant temp and just make sure that's sustainable. If you gotta bump it around a little bit, that's very doable. And so we got a grade coming up here. We're just gonna go ahead and floor it. That is to the floor. And we're barely maintaining speed. We're making like not even 20 pounds of boost. We're probably gonna start losing speed on this grade. For a tow truck, that's not ideal. So we're gonna turn it up a little bit. Yep, start making more power. We got 25 pounds of boost. That's not too bad. We're about 30 pounds of boost there. Gaining speed again, but that's also wasn't a very steep grade. We got another grade coming up here. We'll do it again. But AGTs were acceptable. Coolant temp hasn't really, you know, it's gonna take a little bit to get up there, but I think that was very sustainable power on this truck. And also, you'll probably notice EGT control on this truck is kind of a joke. I mean, it's not, I don't think we're gonna run into EGT problems. You should definitely be watching yours when you set this level up, but this is a 6-1 stroker, ported head, compounds, all that stuff. EGTs aren't really a problem on it. We're gonna be running into coolant temp problems way before EGTs. We got the AFC set up to where it's seeing about 20 pounds according to our little gauge here. That may be about right. Let's see, let's pull up this grade. Okay, that is floored. Looks like we're losing speed. Need more power. That's about 30 pounds in the AFC. That's about 40 pounds of boost total. Looks like we're maintaining speed there, no problem. Coolant temp isn't a problem yet. I'm sure it's going up. EGTs 1150, super sustainable. That's a great setup there. We're a little over 40 pounds of boost. We're actually gaining speed up Black Ridge, so that's kind of cool. So this might be a really good tow setting. Like, nothing's like outrageously hot or anything. Got a little above 1200 there. That's a-okay. So that seems like a really good tow setting for this. Again, in order to really make sure it's completely dialed, when you first tune it, you're gonna wanna watch that coolant temp. And obviously, even like a year from now, we're gonna watch it, keep an eye on it, make sure it's not out of the ordinary. You know, radiator gets dirty, hotter day, colder day, whatever. But I think that's a really solid setup. And EGTs are super controllable. Boost is like not outrageous. And I think coolant temp would survive that for a little bit. If we're pulling up some big grades, oh, come on, Estes. Pretty sure you're not supposed to be on the left lane if you're hauling, but they don't think we have compounds. Punch, dog. Yeah, we're picking up grade again. We're picking up speed. Yeah, this is a good tow setup. That's floored. It's doing really good. Coolant temp's getting up there a little bit. I haven't heard the fan kick on yet though, so we're probably not at the capability of it yet either. Ho ho! Equipment trailer. But yeah, that's pretty, I'd say that's pretty darn dialed. So what we'll do is we're going to actually crank it in another turn just to kind of show you what too much would look like. So we'll give it one more turn here. It's 1, 2, that's 2 half turns. Okay, let's see what it does here. We're gonna give it the bejesus. So off the bat, I can see it's smoky. Agates are getting warm. We're up to 1300, and I doubt that the cooling system would sustain that. So I'm gonna put it back that back half or back 1 full turn, right about there or so. And I think that's gonna be a great tow tune. You can get into it. It's cool. It's got plenty of power for most of your needs, and you're really like able to capitalize on what the truck's capable of. Hopefully all of that tuning of the AFC Live made sense to you guys, but if not, don't worry. We're gonna go through some frequently asked questions right now. So first off, on the road earlier, we backed off that pre-boost screw and you can see like the changes it made. But if you get to the point where you're backing it off and it's not making any difference because it's not contacting the diaphragm or anything at all, what you need to do is you need to make a course adjustment with the AFC housing itself. So you just loosen up those 4 screws holding on the AFC housing, slide it about 1/4 of the way to the rear, so that's towards the firewall of the truck, and then tighten it back down and then use your screw as your fine adjustment again. You might have to bump that in a little bit, just whatnot, but that's how you can get that fine adjustment and get that control of that fueling, especially when you got a maxed out pump, DVs, you know, whatever it is that is adding fuel, you might just need to pull that away from the bottom end a little bit. Now, let's just say you're going through and you're making the tuning changes that we showed in the video, but nothing's really happening, nothing's working like it should, it just doesn't make sense. So a couple things to really check first. First of all, the plumbing of the AFC Live. You want to make sure that the hose that's coming from the side with your max power switch is going to the AFC housing, and the other side of the AFC is going to your plenum or going to a boost source. So that's, if you get those backwards, it obviously will not work like it's supposed to, and so that could be causing you frustration, as well as that quick exhaust valve. You want to make sure that thing is plumbed up correctly and the arrow is going towards the AFC housing. If you have any questions whether like it's working or not, you can also just completely bypass that quick exhaust valve and see if it works better without it, and that will just work like it normally would. It just will not relieve the pressure from the AFC as fast. So if you've done all that and it just still doesn't seem like you're getting the power out of the truck that you feel like you should, like the AFC Live somehow is not working, not giving you that fuel, what you can do is you take the section of line that you cut off when you installed it and go ahead and disconnect the AFC Live from your head and your AFC, and then use that little line to bypass it. So it goes straight from the head to your AFC. What that does is that replicates the max power switch, and that gives you full boost to your AFC, which that should give you full fuel. If you're not getting full fuel from that, that tells you that you have some kind of an issue in your AFC housing itself, or you know, something on the truck side of things, whether that's fuel pressure or boost leak or anything of that nature. If you think that the problem is in the AFC housing, here's a couple things to check. You want to make sure your foot is in correctly and not backwards. You want to make sure that that diaphragm where you tighten it up and you kind of rotate it back and forth, you want to make sure that's in the middle of its travel. If you're off to the side, that can get something to bind up. You can also double check your diaphragm, make sure it's not ripped or torn, and that would obviously cause a leak, and so then if it's torn, it's not going to be actuating, it'll just be leaking out. Now, let's just say you're having a problem still. You've gone through it, everything checks out. One way you can completely eliminate the AFC Live and the AFC housing itself is remove that AFC housing, take the foot out of it, and put the AFC housing right back on. That foot is not going to be there to limit your travel, and so you should have 100% fueling all the time. And so what that does is that allows you to manually check and drive it and make sure that you're getting good power. If you got a lot of power from that mod, then that tells you something is set up wrong in your AFC, and you need to just kind of figure out why it's not actuating itself. You can use compressed air to kind of replicate the boost of the engine, make sure everything's traveling, but that's a great way just to rule out everything AFC side. And if it still doesn't have good power, that really tells you need to be looking at the fuel shelf solenoid, making sure that's lifting all the way, fuel pressure, boost leaks. From there, you're just going into a very generic, why is your 12 valve not making power? Hopefully that answers all you guys' questions. Hopefully you're out there ripping your truck, being able to tune it from inside the cab, which is pretty awesome. But if you have any questions, any issues, just want an opinion or a recommendation, go ahead, give us a call, Power Driven Diesel, and one of our technical support team will be happy to assist you. Catch you in the next one.